Here's a few kickers I'm going to drop heading into Week 14 here. The first guy's Sedan Bailey of the Minnesota Vikings. He was a guy that I said you should get last week, and he disappointed. He only had 4 fantasy points. He missed 2 extra points. He made an extra point, hit a 53-yarder, a 44-yarder, and a 25-yarder. So Dan Bailey, he was a guy that was an ad last week and a start, and this week he's a drop and a drop for the rest of the season. This guy, he's only got 2 double-digit fantasy point games the whole season at kicker. There's better kickers out there, and that's it with Dan Bailey. You drop him. He's owned in 44% of leagues, and he's a guy I'm going to steer clear from, and there's way better options on the wire. The second kicker I'm going to drop here heading into Week 14, Zayn Gonzalez of the Arizona Cardinals. He's a guy that made my top 15 rest of season kicking list, but he's a guy that's been disappointing now. He only had 3 fantasy points with Zayn Gonzalez with 4 PATs so 4 fantasy points with the 4 PATs, and he hasn't had a double-digit fantasy game since Week 10 now. In Week 11, 3 fantasy points, Week 12, 5, and this week with 4. Now he's got a tough matchup at the New York Giants. This Arizona team, they're just not playing good at all either, really. And I don't know what's going on with them, but it seems like everyone on their team, their numbers are going down. They're not getting many scoring opportunities. And Zayn Gonzalez, he's a guy I'm going to steer away from. He's still owned in 41% of fantasy leagues. But I'm going to go out there and drop him. In the third and final kicker, I'm going to cut here heading into Week 14's Mason Crosby of the Green Bay Packers. Crosby's another guy who I said for weeks, just don't bother with him. I know he's in a top offense, but it's a lot of just extra points he's kicking or short yardage field goals, because the Packers, it seems like they always punch the ball into the end zone. And Crosby in Week 13 versus Philly in a good matchup, he had a 44-yarder and 3 PATs made with an extra point miss. So this guy, he's been missing extra points. Packers, they're scoring touchdowns, and this guy, he hasn't had a double-digit fantasy game, is Crosby, since Week 9, and he's only had 3 on the whole season, and that was in the weeks 2 and 3. So Mason Crosby, he's a guy I'm going to get away from. He's a guy I'm going to drop, and he's owned in too many leagues at 41%. So that's a few kickers I'm going to drop here heading into Week 14.